On January 5th, 2026, the President of the United States said something that made Europe freeze. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. 24 hours earlier, American special forces had just extracted the Venezuelan president from his own palace. Now, Trump was talking about a NATO ally's territory, and he wasn't ruling out force. Denmark's response was swift. The Prime Minister warned that this could end NATO itself. 7 European leaders released a joint statement. A Danish member of European Parliament told Trump on the record to fuck off. But here's what's strange. This isn't the first time America has tried to buy Greenland. It's not even the third. The United States has been circling this island for over 150 years. And right now, 3 of the world's most powerful countries are staring at the same map, asking the same question. What makes Greenland worth risking the entire Western alliance? Start with the basics. Greenland is massive. 836,000 square miles. That's bigger than Alaska, Texas, California, and Montana combined. But it has only 57,000 people. Most of the island is under ice. No roads connect the towns. Travel is by boat or helicopter. It's been Danish territory since the 1700s, self-governing since 2009. The people are 90% Inuit. They fish, they hunt, they don't want to be American. A recent poll showed 85% of Greenlanders oppose joining the United States. Only 6% support it. So what's the obsession? Let's follow the money first. Greenland sits on rare earth minerals, lots of them. We're talking 36 to 42 million metric tons of rare earth oxides, potentially the second largest reserve on Earth after China. These aren't your typical minerals. Rare earths are the invisible foundation of modern civilization. Your phone, your electric car, wind turbines, military radar, missile guidance systems. All of it needs these elements. And here's the problem. China controls 69% of global production. They process 90% of what gets mined anywhere. If Beijing decides to cut off the supply tomorrow, most of the Western world grinds to a halt within months. Greenland could be the answer. The island has dysprosium, terbium, graphite, lithium, copper, zinc, uranium. One deposit alone, called Kvanefjeld, could supply 25% of global demand. The global rare earth market is projected to hit $7.6 billion in 2026. Greenland could become the West's alternative to Chinese dominance. That's the pitch anyway. Here's the reality. Greenland's rare earth concentrations are low, really low. A good mine has 3 to 6% rare earth content. Greenland's deposits average closer to 1%. That means you need to move 10 times more rock to get the same amount of material. And where exactly are you moving this rock? There's no infrastructure, no roads, no railways, no deep water ports outside a few towns. The climate is brutal. The terrain is mountainous. Environmental regulations are strict. One expert put it bluntly. Mining Greenland's rare earths would cost billions upon billions of dollars and take at least a decade before producing anything. The idea that these deposits will be successful in the short term is absurd. Even if you somehow extract the ore, you still have to process it, separate the elements, refine them, turn them into usable metals. And guess who has the facilities to do that? China. So the mineral argument doesn't quite hold up. Not yet anyway. But there's another reason America wants Greenland, and this one is older, colder, more dangerous. Pull up a map of the Arctic. Look at the space between Greenland, Iceland, and the United Kingdom, that narrow gap of ocean. During World War II, German U-boats used this passage to hunt Allied supply ships crossing the Atlantic. Thousands of sailors died in those waters. Control of the gap meant control of the war's outcome. During the Cold War, Soviet submarines from the Kola Peninsula had to pass through the GIUK gap to reach the Atlantic. NATO built an entire underwater listening system called SOSUS, arrays of hydrophones on the seafloor, P-3 Orion aircraft patrolling above. The goal was simple: detect every Soviet sub trying to break into the North Atlantic. That system is still there, and Russian submarine activity in the GIUK gap is now back to Cold War levels, maybe higher. Greenland sits at the top of this choke point. The U.S. already has Patuxent Space Base in the northwest, formerly called Thule Air Base. It's home to early warning systems for ballistic missiles. The shortest route for a Russian ICBM to hit the continental United States goes over Greenland and the North Pole. But something new is happening. The ice is melting. Greenland loses 270 billion tons of ice every year. That's 30 million tons per hour. And as the Arctic ice retreats, new shipping routes are opening. The Northwest Passage along Canada, the Transpolar Sea Route through the center of the Arctic Ocean. By 2050, analysts predict a fully navigable transpolar waterway. Ships could cut transit time between Asia and Europe by weeks compared to the Suez Canal. It's a maritime revolution. Whoever controls access to these routes controls trillions in future trade. Russia knows this. China knows this. That's why China declared itself a near-Arctic state in 2018, despite being nowhere near the Arctic. It's why Russia is reopening Soviet-era military bases across its Arctic coastline. And it's why Greenland suddenly looks less like a remote island and more like the crossroads of the 21st century. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. The administration has reportedly discussed paying every Greenlander between $10,000 and $100,000 to encourage them to secede from Denmark and join the United States. The math is interesting. Greenland has 57,000 people. At $100,000 per person, that's $5.7 billion. Sounds like a lot, but Greenland might be sitting on resources worth trillions, and Denmark currently pays Greenland about $600 million per year in subsidies. For comparison, the U.S. paid $7.2 million for Alaska in 1867. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $157 million today, for 665,000 square miles of land that turned out to have massive oil reserves and rare earth deposits. The Louisiana Purchase cost $15 million in 1803, about $430 million in today's money, for 827,000 square miles, that doubled the size of the United States. So by historical standards, buying Greenland for a few billion would be a bargain. If it were for sale, it's not. Denmark has made that clear. Greenland's government has made it even clearer. The people don't want it. European leaders are united in opposition. But the White House keeps talking about a range of options, including military force. The press secretary has said all options are always on the table, and that's where this crosses a line. Denmark is a NATO ally. Article 5 of the NATO treaty says an attack on one member is an attack on all. If the United States uses military force against Greenland, it's not just invading a Danish territory, it's attacking a NATO country. The alliance would effectively collapse. Europe would have to choose between defending Denmark and maintaining ties with Washington. Russia and China would watch NATO tear itself apart from the inside. House Speaker Mike Johnson, one of Trump's closest allies, has said he doesn't think military action is being seriously considered. But the rhetoric keeps escalating. Trump told reporters, "I would like to make a deal, the easy way. But if we don't do it the easy way, we're going to do it the hard way." The hard way? Against an ally, over territory whose people have voted against it. So what's really happening here? One theory, it's negotiation theater. Trump wants better access to Greenland's resources and military cooperation. Denmark wants to avoid a public fight with its most important military partner. The threats are leveraged to force a deal where America gets expanded base rights, mining access, and strategic control without actually annexing the territory. Another theory, it's genuine strategic panic. The Arctic is heating up. China and Russia are positioning for long-term dominance. America doesn't have the icebreakers, the infrastructure, or the Arctic military capacity to compete. Greenland is the last chance to secure a northern foothold before the region is carved up by adversaries. A third theory, it's about China, not the Arctic, the rare earth supply chain. If China can choke off Western access to critical minerals, they have economic leverage on every advanced economy. Greenland represents an escape hatch. Even if mining there is difficult, the mere potential creates negotiating power. And there's a darker possibility, that this is about something simpler. Territory, power, the old imperial logic that might makes right. and borders belong to whoever can hold them. Here's what we know for certain. Greenland's rare earth reserves exist, but are expensive to develop and would take decades to produce meaningful supply. China would still process most of it,